Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It started over something as small as a cup of coffee. I was standing by the kitchen counter, sunlight pouring in through the windows, morning quiet all around, and I just said, "Hey babe, can you make me one too?" Amber didn't even look up from her phone. "Make it yourself," she snapped. At first, I thought she was joking, but she pushed back her chair hard and stormed toward the sink, muttering under her breath like I was the enemy. My eyebrows lifted. "All right, what was that?" I asked, trying to keep it light. She whipped around, eyes sharp. "You always do this, Michael. Asking for things like I'm your waitress." That hit me sideways. "Are you serious right now?" I set my mug down, trying not to let the heat rise in my chest. "It's a cup of coffee, Amber." I wasn't barking orders. I was talking to my wife. "Exactly," she said, voice rising. "Your wife, not your maid." "Then act like one." The words shot out before I could catch them. She froze. I instantly regretted it. My heart started pounding, and I took a breath to reel it back. "Amber, no. You know what?" She snapped. "Forget it. You never see it, do you? You think just because you go to work and pay bills, everything else is supposed to revolve around you." My jaw clenched. I asked for one thing, and suddenly I'm selfish. "No, Michael," she said, pacing now. "You are selfish. You always have been." That was it. The line. I grabbed my keys off the hook and shook my head. "I don't know what's going on with you lately, but I'm done playing this guessing game. If you're gonna treat me like the bad guy every time I open my mouth, then maybe I should just go clear my head somewhere else." I turned toward the door. "Wait, Michael." I paused. She covered her mouth with both hands. Her whole body trembled as her voice cracked. "I'm pregnant." The words stopped me cold. I turned around slowly, like my body didn't believe it yet. "What did you just say?" She looked up, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm pregnant." I felt something in my chest shift. The anger drained in an instant. All I could see was her, scared, vulnerable, holding that secret like it was too heavy to carry alone. My breath caught, and for a second, the kitchen didn't feel like a battleground anymore. I walked over and took her hands gently. "Amber, are you serious?" She nodded, and before I could think, I pulled her into me. Held her so close I could feel her heartbeat. I didn't care about the argument, the tone, the shouting. None of it mattered anymore. My world had just changed in one sentence. "I'm gonna be a dad," I whispered. She laughed through her tears. "Yeah, you are." I closed my eyes, forehead against hers, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something click. I don't know what it was. Hope, maybe. Maybe something bigger. And in that moment, all I could think was, everything's about to change. I don't know how I slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see it. Amber's face, wet with tears but glowing with something new. That look in her eyes, it hadn't been there in a long time. And now, I couldn't stop smiling. I felt like I was holding a little secret too big for one heart to contain. By morning, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I sat at the kitchen table, same place we'd argued yesterday, but this time I was holding my phone, hands shaking as I typed the words, "I'm going to be a dad." Posted it with a big goofy smile and changed my profile pic to match. Within seconds, the likes and hearts started flooding in. Amber walked by with her tea, catching a glimpse of my phone. "Really?" she said, eyebrow raised. "You're posting it already?" I grinned. "Too late. It's out there now. Besides, why shouldn't the world know?" She rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. "You're such a dork." "Gonna be a dad dork," I said proudly, taking a picture of my half-eaten toast. Caption: fueling up for future diaper duty. At work, it was like I'd walked into a new life. I barely made it to my desk before Jen from accounting popped her head into my office. "Michael, I saw your post." "Oh my God, congrats." "Thanks, Jen." I couldn't stop grinning. "Boy or girl?" I shrugged. "We don't know yet. Just found out." She held her hands to her chest. "That's amazing. You're glowing." "Yeah, I noticed that too." My buddy Derek chimed in from the hallway. "Either he's having a baby, or he just got a raise." Laughter broke out. "I'm taking name suggestions," I said, holding up a notepad I'd already scribbled on. "What do you think of the name Hunter if it's a boy?" Derek grimaced. "Sounds like a golden retriever." I laughed. "Then maybe I'll name him Derek, so I can call him Disappointment every Thanksgiving." That got a full round of howling. Around lunchtime, I snuck out to the corner cigar shop. I'd never been the kind of guy to celebrate with cigars, but it just felt right. I bought a pack of the classic kind, dark brown wrappers in a gold tin. Back in the office, I handed them out like party favors. Isn't this a little old school? One of the interns joked. Exactly, I said. I want my kid to hear this story one day and roll their eyes. The rest of the afternoon, I barely sat down. My phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, comments, congratulations from cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone wanted to know, when's the due date? Do you want a boy or girl? Do you have names picked out yet? I didn't have real answers. But man, I loved pretending I did. I got home earlier than usual that evening. My arms were full. Cigars, a baby name book, a couple of fancy candles Amber always likes, and a small silver bracelet engraved with 2 words, Best Mom. I stood outside the front door for a second, just soaking it in. The house, the silence, the weight of the moment. For the first time in a long while, I felt grounded. Inside that house was my future, my family, and I was ready to give it everything. I came home early, quiet as a thief, key turning slow so the door wouldn't click. I wanted this to be perfect. Candles, the bracelet, that stupid baby book tucked under my arm like a promise. Then I heard laughing. Not the soft, tired laugh Amber uses with me at night. This was sharp, loose, careless. A woman's voice said, "Stop, you're terrible." Amber laughed louder. "I'm serious. I'm pregnant by my boss, and my hubby doesn't even suspect a thing." For half a second, my brain refused to process the words. Then the room exploded with laughter. "Oh my God, Amber!" Someone shrieked. "You're awful. Does he really think it's his? He posted it already." I stepped fully into the living room. Silence crashed down hard. Amber was on the couch, surrounded by 3 of her friends. Wine glasses midair, smiles frozen, mouths half open. Her face drained of color so fast it scared me. I set the bags down gently on the table. "Say it again," I said calmly. One friend stood up immediately. "Michael, this isn't." Amber shot her a look. No, it's fine." She laughed nervously, standing too fast. "It was just a joke. You know how they are." I looked at her. Really looked. "A joke," I repeated. "Yes," she said quickly. "Dark humor. Stupid, I know. We were just messing around." One of her friends whispered, "Amber, which part was the joke?" I asked. "The pregnancy, or who the father is?" Her lips trembled. "Michael, stop. You're taking this the wrong way." I nodded slowly. "So your boss isn't your boss?" She swallowed. "He is." "And the baby?" Her voice dropped. "Is real." The room felt too small, too tight. "So help me out," I said quietly. "What exactly were they laughing at?" Nobody answered. One friend grabbed her purse. "We should go." "Yeah," another muttered. "This is not our place." They shuffled past me without eye contact. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded louder than a gunshot. Amber stepped toward me. "Michael, please. You know I'd never." I raised my hand. She stopped instantly. "You let me hold you yesterday," I said. "You let me believe something that made me feel whole." Tears spilled down her cheeks. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. "So you told them instead?" She shook her head. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "It just happened." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I picked up the silver bracelet from the table and placed it back into the bag. "I heard enough," I said evenly. "Michael, I'm not yelling," I interrupted. "That should scare you." She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "This house feels different now," I said. "Like I don't belong in it." "That's not fair," she cried. "I didn't laugh," I said. "I didn't joke. I didn't lie." She slid down onto the couch, sobbing. "Please don't leave." I picked up my keys. "I'm not staying," I said. "And I'm not discussing this tonight." As I walked out, I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. It was already dark when I got in the car, the streetlights streaking across my windshield as Austin blurred past me. My hands were tight on the steering wheel. Too tight. My jaw ached from clenching it. I didn't call anyone. I didn't think. I just drove. I pulled up in front of a 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. Perfect lawn, porch light on, the kind of place where nothing bad is supposed to happen. I sat there for a full minute, engine running, heart hammering. Then I rang the doorbell. Footsteps. The door opened. A woman stood there first, early 40s, soft eyes, confused smile. "Yes." Before I could answer, a man appeared behind her. Tall, well-dressed. I recognized him instantly from the company holiday photos Amber used to show me. Her boss. Can I help you? He asked, already irritated. I didn't look at him. I looked at her. Your husband got my wife pregnant. Silence dropped like a weight. The woman's face drained of color. What did you just say? That's a lie, the man snapped. Get off my property. I stepped forward just enough so he couldn't shut the door. Ask him, I said calmly. Ask him why my wife thinks it's funny. His wife turned slowly. Funny, she whispered. What is he talking about? Michael, right? The man said through his teeth. You're confused. You should leave. She stared at him. Do you know this man? He didn't answer fast enough. That was all it took. Her breath hitched. Oh my God, he shoved my chest. Hard. Get out. Now. I didn't push back. I didn't raise my voice. I hope the truth keeps you warm at night, I said quietly. His wife collapsed into the doorframe, covering her face as a sound came out of her I'll never forget. Not a scream. Something worse. Something breaking. Tell me it's not true, she cried. I stepped back. Then another step. I wasn't part of this anymore. I walked to my car as the shouting started behind me. I didn't look back. Dean opened the door in sweatpants, blinking. Mike? It's midnight. I handed him my keys. Can I crash? He took one look at my face and stepped aside. Couch is yours. I sat down, stared at the wall. You want to talk? He asked gently. No. He nodded. Beer. I shook my head. Dean draped a blanket over me like I was a kid and turned off the light. I'll be here. For 2 days, I barely moved. My phone buzzed. I ignored it. Dean left food on the table. I didn't touch it. On the second night, he sat across from me. You don't have to carry this alone. I finally spoke. My voice felt unfamiliar. I didn't do anything wrong. Dean swallowed. No, you didn't. I closed my eyes. Silence felt safer than words. Dean's backyard had that easy, suburban comfort to it. Cheap fold-out tables, string lights drooping lazily across the fence, the scent of grilled hot dogs lingering in the air. Kids ran barefoot in the grass while neighbors drank lukewarm beer out of red cups. I kept to the corner, nursing a soda, still not ready to talk much. 2 days of silence hadn't made the pain smaller, but it had made it quieter. Manageable, maybe. Dean threw his arm around my shoulder and grinned. You're here. That's a start. I didn't come for the potato salad, I muttered. You didn't come for anything. I dragged you out here. He wasn't wrong. A group of women near the lawn chairs whispered, their eyes flicking toward me like I was some ghost that had wandered into their barbecue. Dean followed my gaze. Ignore them. Who are they? He sighed. Friends of Amber. Sort of. They showed up with Mindy. I knew Mindy. She was one of the ones laughing that night. The whispering grew bolder. Then louder. I just think it's pathetic, that's all. One of them said, not even trying to hide it now. He walks out the moment things get complicated? Amber's the one carrying a child. Another added, voice dripping with disdain. I mean, real men don't run. Especially from a pregnant wife. That was it. I stood up, slow and steady, and tapped my cup with a fork. The faint chimes silenced the party. People turned. Kids quieted. Conversations paused. I looked directly at the women by the chairs. I want to say something, I said. Just real quick. Dean nodded from the grill. Go ahead. I cleared my throat. My voice was calm, but every syllable had weight. 2 nights ago, I walked into my home. Our home. To surprise my wife with candles, a bracelet, and a book of baby names. The crowd was still, and I heard her, laughing with some of you. I turned slightly toward Mindy, saying, I'm pregnant by my boss, and my hubby doesn't even suspect. Mindy's face turned red. She said it like a joke. You all laugh like it was a performance. Like betrayal is entertainment. I paused. So no, I didn't walk out because things got hard. I walked out because I was lied to. Humiliated, stripped of every piece of trust I'd built in that relationship. A hush fell over the crowd like a blanket. I looked at the group of women. If you want to defend her, fine. But let's not twist the story. Suddenly, Mindy stormed toward me. How dare you bring this here? She spat, and before I could step back, smack. Her hand connected with my face, sharp and hot. Gasps rippled around the backyard. Dean was there in seconds, grabbing her wrist. Get out. Dean, no. You and your little whisper circle. Out. Now. We were invited. And I'm uninviting you, he growled. Take your pity for liars and get off my lawn. The group stumbled, muttering curses and apologies, grabbing purses and drinks as they left. Once the gate slammed shut behind them, No one spoke for a long moment. Then Dean looked around and said loudly, "Now that the morally bankrupt portion of the guest list is gone, who wants ribs?" A few chuckles broke through the tension. Relief settled in the air, awkward but honest. Someone from across the yard called out, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I didn't know. That's messed up." I nodded once, not needing more. The rest of the night passed in slow, tired waves. A few people came up to pat my shoulder or shake my hand. No one asked questions. No one told me to see both sides. And for the first time since that kitchen argument, I felt something close to peace. Not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of clarity. The next morning, I found myself outside a beige brick office building tucked between a dental clinic and an old coffee shop downtown. A discreet plaque read, "Elise Graves, Attorney at Law." I stared at it for a long minute before walking in. The front desk woman didn't ask questions. She just handed me a clipboard and said, "You're the noon consult?" I nodded, even though my voice felt stuck somewhere between my chest and throat. 10 minutes later, the door creaked open, and a woman stepped in, mid-50s, iron gray suit, no makeup, eyes that looked like they'd already seen every kind of lie the world could throw. "Mr. Keller?" she asked, extending a hand. "Elise Graves. Come on in." Her office was clean, too clean. A single photo frame sat on her desk. No family, just a quote. "Truth isn't gentle, but it sets you free." She sat down across from me, pulled out a legal pad. "Let's hear it." I told her everything. From the coffee request that turned into a fight, to the hug in the kitchen, to the laughter, and the sentence that broke me. "I'm pregnant by my boss, and my hubby doesn't even suspect." She didn't react, didn't nod, didn't flinch. Just wrote. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "I don't take paternity cases often. Too many people lie. And frankly, men wait too long to act." "I'm not here to play victim," I said. She arched an eyebrow. "Good. Because that doesn't help in court. I just want to know the truth." Ms. Graves tapped her pen on the desk. "All right. First things first. We get access to your travel records, work logs, phone pings, and Amber's prenatal charts." "She hasn't given me any charts." "We'll subpoena them," she said briskly. "And if she refuses, that tells us something too." I swallowed. "How long does this take?" She looked at me directly. Truth moves slow, but it moves. The next week was a mess of paperwork, signatures, and tense silences. Dean helped me dig up travel receipts and forwarded every old calendar invite he could find from our project trip to Denver. I had been gone almost 2 full weeks in mid-June. Amber's first ultrasound was July 14th. When Ms. Graves got the hospital's estimated conception window, she asked me to come in. I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into her office. She didn't say hello, just slid a manila folder across the desk. "Take a look." I flipped it open. Inside was a single highlighted sentence from the doctor's report. Estimated conception, June 12th to 18th. My stomach dropped. Denver, June 10th to 24th. I looked up. My mouth opened. No words came out. Ms. Graves set her pen down gently. "You were out of state." I blinked. "She never visited?" she asked. I shook my head. "We FaceTimed. That's it." She nodded once, eyes softer now. "Michael, biologically, you couldn't be the father." I didn't speak. Not at first. I just stared at the words in that folder, as if staring hard enough might make the date move. But it didn't. The room felt cold. "I thought I was getting my life back," I said quietly. "I thought this was going to fix something between us." Ms. Graves folded her hands. "Some truths heal. Others free you from false hope." I let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped for weeks. This wasn't just betrayal. This was certainty. Unforgiving, undeniable certainty. And somehow, that hurt worse. While we're here, please press like and let me know you're with me. I parked a few houses down and walked the rest of the way. I don't know why. I guess I didn't want the neighbors peeking through their blinds, watching me carry a bag out of the house I used to call mine. The sun was still up, casting long shadows across the porch. The same porch where we carved pumpkins, where we hung Christmas lights, where Amber once danced barefoot with a bottle of wine in hand on our first New Year's Eve. Now it just looked like a stage where the wrong play had been rehearsed. I didn't knock. My key still worked. But the second I turned it in the lock and cracked the door, she was there. Amber, like she'd been listening for the sound all day. "Michael, wait." I froze, hand still on the knob. She stepped forward, blocking the doorway. Her eyes were rimmed red, but she'd done her hair. Wore the necklace I gave her 3 Christmases ago. Like maybe if she looked like a memory, I'd step back into one. I just need a few things, I said, voice flat. Can we talk? Her voice cracked. Please. Just 5 minutes. I stared at her, then gave a short nod and stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon cleaner. The counters were spotless. Everything too in place. I could feel the desperation in the way the room was scrubbed. I walked past her toward the bedroom. She followed. You don't have to do this, she said. We can figure this out. People make mistakes. I turned, just enough to glance at her. Mistakes are one thing, I said. But you didn't trip and fall into a man's bed. She looked away. I opened the closet, pulled out a duffel bag I'd left behind. Started packing, just essentials. A few shirts. Some socks. The hoodie she used to steal when she was cold. Michael, stop. She stepped in front of me again. Her hands grabbed my arm. It's yours, she said suddenly. The baby. I swear to God. I pulled my arm free. She reached again. I messed up, okay? But I'm telling you the truth now. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought if I just kept quiet, maybe we'd be okay. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said the words I'd been holding in since Ms. Graves showed me that folder. Women always know who the father is, Amber. You just hoped I never would. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. You didn't lie because you were confused, I added. You lied because the truth was inconvenient. She broke down instantly. Knees gave out. She sank to the floor, both hands covering her face. I didn't mean to, she sobbed. I didn't want it to be like this. I crouched down, not to comfort her, but because I wanted her to hear me for my level. The court results are on the way, I said quietly. But you already know what they'll say. Tears soaked her sleeves. I stood up, slung the duffel over my shoulder. She didn't try to stop me this time. She just sat there on the hardwood, crying into the silence. At the door, I turned once more, not out of regret, but to make sure she understood something final. You didn't just break us, Amber. You buried us. And I'm done digging through the wreckage trying to find something worth saving. I walked out and didn't look back. This time, the door didn't echo. It just shut. The courtroom was quieter than I expected. No gavel slams, no dramatic gasps, just the soft hum of ceiling fans and the occasional shuffle of paper. It felt less like justice and more like a doctor's waiting room. Sterile. Measured. I sat with my hands folded in my lap. A man no longer seeking a win, just a clear ending. Amber was already there when I walked in. She looked smaller somehow. Not in size, just presence. Her hands were shaking slightly as she fiddled with the tissue. She didn't meet my eyes. She hadn't since that night. I packed my things and walked out. Ms. Graves sat beside me, flipping through her notes like this was any other Tuesday. For her, maybe it was. Then the judge entered, gray suit, wire-rimmed glasses, a calm tone that had no place for drama. Case file Keller versus Keller. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The clerk nodded. Both parties present. The judge turned to me first. Mr. Keller, you've submitted a timeline of business travel overlapping with the estimated conception window of the child in question. Ms. Grace has also provided DNA timing assessments from medical records. He looked down at the paper again and read. Conception likely occurred between June 12th and June 18th. You were in Denver for work during that time? Yes, Your Honor, I replied. Amber flinched slightly, as if the words stung more coming from a judge than they had from me. The judge turned to her. Ms. Keller, do you contest the timeline? She didn't answer right away. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Finally, her voice cracked through the silence. No, I don't contest it. He nodded. Do you wish to make any statement? She gripped the tissue tighter, already soaked through. I lied, she said softly. I was scared. I thought if I said it enough times, maybe it would become true. I didn't want to lose him, but I already had. The judge gave her a moment, then turned to the paperwork. Both parties have agreed to divide shared property equally, he continued. Mr. Keller has requested to retain only what he personally earned prior to the marriage. There is no dispute over this arrangement. Ms. Graves leaned over and whispered, You sure you don't want to fight for more? I shook my head. I'm not here for her furniture. The judge stamped the file with a dull thud and handed it to the clerk. Divorce granted, he said plainly. Effective immediately. Amber pressed the tissue against her mouth to muffle a sob. I reached for the pen the clerk offered and signed the decree without hesitation. Then I stood, nodded politely to the judge, and walked out. No theatrics. No raised voices. No final parting words. Just paperwork. Just closure. Outside, the air was cool, the wind tugging gently at my shirt. I stopped for a moment on the courthouse steps, looked up at the pale gray sky, and let my lungs fill. There wasn't relief. Not yet. But there was finality. And for now, that was enough. Ms. Graves called me 3 days after the ink dried on the divorce papers. I was back at Dean's place, helping him power wash the patio. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to answer. "Michael," she said in that flat tone of hers. "There's a paternity case scheduled Friday. Amber's boss is named in it." I wiped my hands on a rag. "And it's public record. You're not required to be there, but I thought you might want to hear it from a judge." I didn't reply. She added, "He's contesting responsibility. Apparently, he's playing the it could be anyone's card. That sound familiar?" I let out a short breath. Too familiar. That Friday, I walked into the same courthouse. Different courtroom. Same cold lighting. This time, I sat in the back. I didn't wear a suit. Just jeans and a flannel. I wasn't part of the story anymore. I was just there to watch it end. Amber sat at the front with a different attorney, some eager young guy with too much gel in his hair. She looked tired. Not broken. Just used up, like a person who's been running from the truth and finally hit a wall. And then he walked in. The boss. Andrew Lang. Wearing a tailored suit, checking his watch like this was a parking ticket hearing. His lawyer looked even worse, slick, smug, and trying too hard. When the judge entered, the room settled fast. "This court is reviewing the matter of paternity and financial obligation in the case of Amber Keller and Andrew Lang," she began, flipping through the file. "Per the court-ordered DNA results submitted last week, Mr. Lang has been confirmed as the biological father with 99.9% certainty." Lang didn't flinch. Amber closed her eyes. The judge continued. "Given the results and the timeline provided by both parties, Mr. Lang will be required to pay child support in accordance with Texas state law." Lang's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client is willing to comply with financial obligations, but we would like the court to acknowledge that no long-term relationship exists between these parties, and that there will be no legal pursuit of marriage or shared custody beyond the required financial contribution." The judge frowned. "That's not for you to declare, counsel. The court isn't here to arrange a wedding." Lang muttered just loud enough for the courtroom to hear. "I'll pay child support, but I'm not marrying her." Amber didn't react. Not with words, anyway. Her head dipped slightly. Shoulders tensed. She pressed her lips together like she was holding in everything that wanted to break loose. The judge looked toward her. "Miss Keller, do you wish to address the court?" She shook her head. Silence settled again, but her eyes shifted. To me. I saw it, clear as day across the room. She knew I was there. Had probably known since the moment she walked in. And now she was looking at me like the room was empty, and this was the last thing she'd ever get to say. But she didn't say it. Her gaze was full of things she couldn't speak. Regret, shame, maybe something close to apology. I didn't return it. Not out of cruelty, but because that chapter wasn't mine to read anymore. The judge banged the gavel once. "This hearing is concluded." Lang walked out first. Fast. Like the truth didn't weigh anything to him. Amber sat there another moment, still looking at me. Then slowly, she stood and left without a word. And I stayed seated, long after the courtroom was empty, not because I needed anything from her, but because I wanted to feel what it was like to be the one who finally stayed calm when someone else's world fell apart. The bell above the diner door jingled, same as it had since the 70s. I'd been coming here since college. Cheap eggs, refillable coffee, and a kind of silence that didn't ask for anything back. I was already at our usual booth when Dean slid in across from me, still brushing rain off his sleeves. He looked at me for a second before speaking. "You look human again," he said. I smirked. "Thanks for lowering the bar." The waitress, Janine, always remembered our names, came by with 2 chipped mugs and a fresh pot of coffee. "Y'all want food or just the therapy blend?" "Just the coffee," I said. Dean nodded. "Make it strong." He's finally saying words again. She smiled kindly and walked off, leaving us in a cocoon of warm light and clinking silverware. Dean leaned forward, studying me. "So, that it? Everything's settled?" "Court said it's over," I replied. "Paperwork signed. Custody decided. Payments arranged. You go to the paternity hearing? I nodded once. And he asked. I took a slow sip before answering. It wasn't a surprise. It was just final. Dean looked down at the table, tracing the edge of a sugar packet with his finger. Man, I gotta be honest. I didn't think you'd come through this standing upright. Yeah, I murmured. Neither did I. He met my eyes again. So how are you? Actually. There was a pause, long enough to let the air settle. Then I said it, soft, but clear. It's better to live with the bitter truth than with a sweet lie. Dean let out a slow breath and nodded, almost like a quiet applause. You know, he said, most guys in your shoes would have done something reckless. Gone off the rails. Gotten mean. You didn't. I thought about it, I admitted. But I think the damage was loud enough without me adding more noise. We sat in silence for a moment, just sipping coffee, letting the quiet carry some of the weight. Outside the window, the rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle. Inside, the clink of dishes, the hiss of the griddle, the low hum of life going on. It all felt distant but grounding. Dean cleared his throat. So what now? I don't know, I said. Sleep. Work. Maybe buy a new coffee maker. That's your big plan? For now. He chuckled. You're really okay? I thought about that for a second. No, I answered. But I will be. We sat there a while longer. No big speeches. No dramatic moments. Just two friends drinking coffee in a quiet booth on a gray morning. One of them a little more whole than he'd been the week before. And maybe that was enough. It was one of those warm Texas afternoons where the sun hits just right on the pavement, bright enough to sting your eyes, quiet enough to hear your own footsteps. I had just loaded a bag of groceries into the trunk and was sliding the cart into the return slot when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Michael. I turned. There she was. Amber. Hair curled perfectly, makeup done like she had somewhere expensive to be, sunglasses pushed up on her head. Behind her, a brand new black SUV gleamed under the sunlight, polished and proud like it had something to prove. I hadn't seen her in months. She looked good, and that surprised me more than it should have. Hey, I said, calm as I could manage. She took a slow step toward me, hands tucked in the pockets of her beige designer coat. I didn't think I'd run into you out here. It's just groceries, I said with a shrug. She gave a soft laugh. Right. There was a moment of stillness, neither of us sure how much space to leave. Then she tilted her head slightly. I heard you moved out of Dean's place. I did. You doing all right? I nodded once. Yeah. She looked down for a second, then back up at me. Things have been different. I mean, the settlement helped. And Andrew, he's doing what he's legally supposed to do, financially at least. She gestured toward the SUV, as if the vehicle itself answered a question I hadn't asked. But it's not what I thought it would be, she added, her voice quieter now. He shows up with money, but not much else. Doesn't call. Doesn't ask. I didn't respond. She continued, the baby's healthy. Beautiful. He has these eyes that don't belong to Andrew. They're soft. Thoughtful. The kind that follow you around the room like they're waiting for something. Every time he looks at me, it's like he's asking a question I don't know how to answer. Her voice cracked just slightly. I just thought if I could give him a good life, maybe it would make things better. Easier. But money doesn't. Hold him when he cries at 3 a.m. Or tell him who he is. Or where he came from. I still hadn't said a word. She looked at me again. Really looked, and asked, do you hate me? I shook my head slowly. No. Then what do you feel when you see me? I thought about it for a long second. Then answered, I'm glad you're doing okay. She blinked, surprised. Maybe expecting more. Maybe hoping for it. But I didn't give her anything else. I glanced at the sky, then back toward my car. I should go. She nodded, lips pressed tight. Take care, Amber. You too, she said softly. I got in, shut the door, and backed out without looking in the rearview mirror. As I pulled away, I saw her in my side mirror, still standing there, not moving, watching the car disappear through the parking lot like it was the last line of a book she'd already reread too many times. I turned the corner and let the sunlight hit my hands on the wheel. All I could think was, you can buy a better car, a bigger house, a life that looks shinier in photos. But you can't buy back the people who were once around your dinner table, or the kind of love that trusted you with their silence. You can't pay your way into peace. Some things you only get once. And if you trade them for comfort, you'll spend the rest of your life seeing them in someone else's eyes. That was the end of my story. Amber never said another word to me after that day in the parking lot. But sometimes I wonder, if you were in her shoes, would you have told the truth sooner or kept hiding it like she did? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm really curious how others see it. And hey, if this story made you feel something, go ahead and like the video and hit subscribe for more.